Ekam Shena Stito Jagat Atavoy Bahunatena Kim Gatena Tavarjuna Vistavyaham idam Kritsnam Ekam Shena Stito Jagat Attava Bahunaitena Kim Gatena Tavarjuna Vistavyam idam Kritsnam Ekam Shena Stito Jagat Attava Bahunaitena Kim Gatena Tavarjuna Vistavyam idam Kritsnam Ekam Shena Stito Jagat Attava Bahunaitena Tavarjuna Vistavyam idam Kritsnam Ekam Shena Stito Jagat. Ladies?
Attava
Bahunaitena Vistavyena Tavarjuna Vistavyaham idam Kritsnam Ekam Shena Stito Jagat Attavai Bahunatena Tavarjuna Vistavyaham idam Kritsnam Ekam Shena Stito Jagat Attava or Bahuna many Etena by this kind Kim when what Gatena by knowing Tava your Arjuna O Arjun Vistavya pervading Aham I idam this Kritsnam entire Eka by one Amshena part Sthita am situated Jagat universe Attava Bahanoitena Kim Gatena Tavarjuna Vistavyaham idam Kritsnam Ekam Stena Tito Jagat. So, translation. Chapter 10, verse 42. But what need is there, Arjuna, for all this detailed knowledge? With a single fragment of myself, I pervade and support this entire universe. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The Supreme Lord is represented throughout the entire material universe. The universe is by his entering into all things as the Supersoul. The Lord here tells Arjuna that there is no point in understanding how things exist in their separate opulence and grandeur. He should know that all things are existing due to Krishna's entering them as the Supersoul. From Brahma, the most gigantic entity, on down to the smallest ant, all are existing because the Lord has entered each and all and is sustaining them. There is a mission that regularly propounds that worship of any demigod will lead one to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or the Supreme Goal. But worship of demigods is thoroughly discouraged herein, because even the greatest demigods like Brahma and Shiva represent only a part of the opulence of the Supreme Lord. He is the origin of everyone born, and no one is greater than him. He is Asamurdva, which means that no one is superior to him and no one is equal to him. In the Brahma Padma Purana, it is said that one who considers the Supreme Lord Krishna in the same category with demigods, be they even Brahma or Shiva, becomes an atheist immediately. If, however, one thoroughly studies the different descriptions of the opulences and expansions of Krishna's energy, then one can understand without any doubt the position of Lord Krishna and can fix his mind in the worship of the Krishna without deviation. The Lord is all-pervading by the expansion of his partial representation and the Supersoul who enters into everything that is. Pure devotees, therefore, concentrate their minds in Krishna consciousness in full devotional service. Therefore, they are always situated in transcendental position. Devotional service and worship of Krishna are very clearly indicated in this chapter in verses 8 through 11. That is the way of pure devotional service. How can one attain the highest devotional perfection of association with the Supreme Personality of Godhead has been thoroughly explained in this chapter. Srila Baladev Vidyabhusan, the great Acharya in disciplic succession from Krishna, concludes his commentary on this chapter by saying, Yat Shakti Leshat Suryada Bhavant Yat Yugra Tejasa Yad Amsena Dritam Vishwam Sakrishno Dasamer Chate. From Lord Krishna's potent energy, even the powerful sun gets its power, and by Krishna's partial expansion, the whole world is maintained. Therefore, Lord Sri Krishna is worshipable. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 10th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita in the matter of the opulence of the Absolute. All right. This chapter, you've been going over it, right? It has the main verses, the seed verses. Aham sarvasya prabhavo matak sarvam pravartate. Everything comes from me. I am the source of everything. So Krishna can say that because it's true. He can say me, 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 me in one verse so many times. And we can tolerate it, right? If I said that, or anybody said that, he wouldn't tolerate it. So we find how many times Krishna says aham, and mam, and me, my, I, mine. And still, foolish so-called, Bhagavad Gita teachers say he doesn't mean that, or he's not a person. He says it, but he means something else. The typical Mayavadi, they all say basically the same thing, and to eliminate the personality of Krishna. But Krishna is saying it all comes from me. And Lord Brahma, says Yasyaka Nishita Kalam Atavalambyo Jivanti Loma Vilaja Jagadandanata Vishnur Mahan Siyayasya Kalavishesho. Even the Mahavishnu is a portion of Krishna, far removed from Krishna actually. Mahavishnu, the original Vishnu that all the universes are coming from, the material universes. So it is inconceivable. But so Krishna then Arjuna, he wants to know. Krishna explains, and then Arjuna says the famous verse, Param Brahma, Param Dhamma, Pavitram Paramam, Bhavan, Purusham, Shasvatam Divyam, Adi Devam Idam Vibhu. All these things, you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the ultimate abode, the purest, the absolute truth. You are the eternal, transcendental, original person, unborn, and the greatest, And all the great sages like Narada, Sita, Devala, and Vyasa say this. And now you also say it. So Arjuna, then he says, I totally accept as truth everything you've told me. That's a very nice statement, because we're meant to understand Bhagavad Gita in the way that Arjuna understood it. Right? At the end of Bhagavad Gita, first Arjuna was arguing with Krishna, and then at the end Krishna said, okay, now what do you want to do? Whatever you tell me, I'll do it. Because he understood. He knew already, but Krishna cleared it all up for our benefit. Do you want to put that in? Sorry. Flower Loka. India said a wealthy place because it's flowers, right? In Japan, the deities get about this many flowers in a week. I'm serious. They have to just put a few flowers with leaves. And they have to pay a lot of money for it. It's supposed to be a rich country, but India has much more opulences of nice things. So I totally accept as truth everything you've told me. So this is after Krishna's told them all, that he's the origin of everything, and anyone who worships him will, get everything. And totally. Sarvamitat ritam manye. I accept everything you told me as true, without doubts. In the beginning, Arjuna said, Krishna, these doubts are like demons, and only you can destroy them. So then he's, of course, wants the doubts destroyed. A doubting soul can be no happiness in this life or the next. Doubts. Of course, also Kapila Dev said doubt is a function of the intelligence. But then if one doubts something, you should investigate, And we should be very careful about all these promises of sense gratification. Shouldn't, most people will blindly accept any promise of sense gratification. This pill will solve all your ills. This will fulfill all your dreams. So many things are advertised like that, and people just go for it. Work hard to get it, and they're never satisfied. So then when they hear about Krishna, they feel like maybe he's a cheater also. But we should, if we research about Krishna and see the effect of people who have followed Krishna, or just read Bhagavad Gita regularly and see how amazing it is. How everything is explained in so many different angles of vision and so many ways to, know everything. And then to know at least, we should worship Krishna. Arjuna says that, you only know yourself by your internal potency. He's just glorifying Krishna. Then he wants to know about all these divine opulences. So, if you've been coming every day, then you've heard, among fishes I'm the shark. The shark is the most far out fish, right? And among mountains, he's Mount Meru. Among immovable things, he's the Himalayas. Whatever, that's how you can think of Krishna. Everything is an expansion of Krishna, but when you see something great, you should think, well, that's, Krishna, because it's all Krishna's creation. He's the ability in man, that's in other places. The sound in ether, people admire people with ability, right? Athletes, they'll watch the cricket match 24 hours a day to see somebody, that has some ability. But that ability in man is Krishna, and that their ability is very slight, very small thing, and it won't last very long. But it comes from Krishna. And beauty, whatever opulence anyone has, it's given by Krishna. But mostly, most people, if they get some opulence, then they become intoxicated. Janmaisvarya Shuti Shibir. Edamana Madat Puman, right? Kunti said that they good birth, so-called good birth, high birth. Some people think their country, taking birth in their country is great. And then within that country, certain families are supposed to be great, or they think they're great. I suppose everybody thinks like, right? My mother was always telling me the family was great, and then she'd tell me about different previous members of the family that they weren't so great. I was confused. This one was so great, but he was an alcoholic, and this one was this. But it's a great family, And they tried to trace their family tree back to find somebody great, that you came from somebody. But we know, you came from Krishna. Everybody, whatever their current position is in the material world. And the Bhagavatam purport is today, the verse said, even if somebody's so-called great in the material world, but they don't surrender to Krishna, then, it's useless. Who cares? They're just admired by a bunch of fools for a short time. So Arjuna wants to know how to think of Krishna. So he tells him, and many other things in different, like Prabhupada, when people ask, have you seen God? He says, yes, everyone is seeing God. I'm the light in the sun and the moon, and the ability in man, the sound in ether, taste in water. Everyone is experiencing those things. But they just don't know it's Krishna. But it's a little bit of Krishna, but the idea is to think of Krishna. That's what the universal form is explained very closely in the second canto. The universe is, the body of the Lord. It's an imaginary, but it is His energy. So the mountains are the bones, and the rivers are the veins, and the clouds are the hair on the head, right? So many different things. Different planets are the feet, and the eyes are the sun and the moon. So it should be that then when you see these things, where you think of Krishna. That's the idea. That a neophyte person, can't believe that God is a person, can somehow relate to that, to the universe, to the material energy as a great body. We have that picture in Bhagavad Gita. I used to have it anyway. It looked like the guy from the Fantastic Four, right? The universal guy with, one arm is stones and one is water or something. So to get some idea of a person. But then, if we just hear about Krishna enough, even just read Bhagavad Gita and see how much intelligent Krishna is, how everything is described in so much detail, and you never get tired of reading it. That Arjuna says that, tell me again and again. I never get tired, right? That's this verse, that's in this chapter also. Please again describe the detail, the mystic power of your opulence. I am never satiated in hearing about you, for the more I hear, the more I want to taste the nectar of your words. That's Krishna. And that's in the beginning of the Bhagavatam also. The sages said, we never tire of hearing this. So hopefully we're like that, and we should be, but we may not be that much taste yet. So we get tired. When is this class going to end? When I can get back on the internet, right? Find out what's going on in the world. But everything is, people are fascinated by the same thing. Like I said, they can watch that cricket day and night. What has ever happens different? But they're all excited. They can talk about the politics, or talk about whatever they're interested in. Devotees talk about Krishna. But that's purifying, it's beneficial. It doesn't disturb the mind ultimately, it purifies the mind. So Arjuna is asking, and then that's, for our sake, Krishna set this up so there would be the Bhagavad Gita spoken and recorded for our benefit. And we're meant to, Prabhupada made a lot of effort to get the Bhagavad Gita. We know something. He translated while he was working as a chemist. He used to write, they said, in the order book. And he was advertising in his Back to Godhead that he's going to have this complete Bhagavad Gita with the Sanskrit and the word for word and all these things. And he was looking for sponsors. Some man offered, he went to South India to get it, but he came back and the manuscript was gone. he suspected his son, which is probably correct, knowing how the son was after Prabhupada left. But so he just did it again. And at first he was just writing by hand, and then eventually had a typewriter in New York. And Prabhupada was this kind of typist. But he managed to write this whole book and then inspire devotees to get it published. A great endeavor. I think if you read Brahmananda Swamiji, you know what they went through to get the Bhagavad Gita. The Macmillan thought it's too big, and Prabhupada had to edit it, take out about 2/3 of what he wrote. But still it came out, and devotees were able to finally read, but the early devotees didn't even have, they only had Prabhupada and chanting, they didn't have books. Then they had this small Bhagavad Gita, and then finally this one came. And we were distributing. And, you know, it's now, people are asking for Bhagavad Gitas all over the world. So many different languages. I was in LA and I went to one campus with devotees. And I approached one young boy, you know, he was a student, kind of spaced out because it was registration time or something. And I put the Bhagavad Gita in his hand, a small one, and then I was talking to him and he didn't notice the book. He was very friendly, and then he looked down and saw the book. He said, "Oh, I'm looking for this book. Where can I get it?" Well, I don't know why he thought I gave it to him, but anyway, he took it. And many, many people like that. We see the reports of the Sankirtan devotees. They're asking, they're looking. They say, "Oh, I've been looking for this. Oh, I've heard about this. Oh, I read it. Oh, I was looking for a proper version of it." You know. So Prabhupada put it as it is, Bhagavad Gita. It had so much effect. Because Krishna says, you know, Bhava Mad Bhakto, become my devotee, but previously there were many Bhagavad Gitas, but people read it, but nobody became a devotee. Because the Mayavadis tell you that Krishna is not really the Supreme Lord, he just says he is. And it's really something else that you can't perceive or know or hear or think of. And then, you know, how can you serve that? Or even if they believe in the universal form. Prabhupada said devotees don't like the universal form because you can't serve the universal. Can't make a garland. Prabhupada said that.
So you can't have a relationship with.
You can't make a cloth. He said it'd take the whole cloth factory. Yeah, and how can you have a relationship? Krishna comes in a nice form, you can relate to him. That's his real form, that's our real position. Even I noted, like you see down the road here, this gigantic Hanuman and then even much more gigantic Durga, right? You never see Krishna like that. Shiva, Hanuman, Buddha, they all make these gigantic ones. You know, but Krishna is nice, you know. You can serve him, you can approach him, you know, and we can hear from him, you know, the nectar. So how to perceive, because we see all these things all the time, you know. He says in the heart of every living entity. So that would be nice to see that Krishna's in the heart of every living entity. And that when devotees asked Prabhupada, he said, just keep reading Bhagavad Gita, then, you know, you want to know how to see Krishna in everyone's heart. And if we try to distribute, so, you know, all these things that are common things, but the greatest things that should remind us of Krishna. If we see some very rich man or very, you know, beautiful person, you know, instead of going, oh, you know, that's a very temporary, but whatever it is, it's just not even a spark of Krishna's splendor, because he's saying here that, you know, know that all opulent, beautiful, and glorious creations come from but a spark of my splendor. So, you know, he's just trying to give us an idea of himself. you know. And sometimes puffed up people talk like that, but you know, there is a joke. But Krishna, it's a fact. The entire, all the universal creation is, you know, it says something like it's 1/4, but it's like a little cloud in the corner of everything. All the universes, not just this little planet or our little country or our little village or wherever, you know, whatever we think is great, right? Nowadays we might, a little bit awareness of the planet because we get pictures and we can go in an airplane, but how much can you see? And then you can't see anything except, you know, the little shape if you get a little bit far away. And when we're standing on the ground, you know, we can't see very much. We can't see the, what is it, the forest for the trees. You can only see the trees. You don't know there's a forest. So, but then what need is there for this detailed knowledge? Because the fragment of myself I pervade and support the entire universe. That's the super soul. Super soul Krishna describes in chapter 13. Quite interesting. Krishna is the super soul. He tells Arjuna that sometimes. See that I and the super soul are the same. The super soul is the original source of all the senses, yet he doesn't have senses. He's unattached, although he's a maintainer of everything. He transcends the modes of nature. At the same time, he's the master of all the modes of nature. 13:15. Sarvendriya gunabhasam sarvendriya vivarjitam asaktam sarva brichchaiva nirgunam guna bhokti cha. See a few devotees' names in there. The super soul. The supreme truth exists inside and outside of all living beings, the moving and non-moving. Because he is subtle, he is beyond the power of the material senses to see or know. Although far, far away, he's also near. That's also in the Isha.Kavichandra, right? He's very near, but he's very far away. He doesn't have any legs, but he can outrun anybody. You know, all these things. So that's Krishna. And he's in everybody's heart. But someone with the wrong consciousness, he's so far away they don't believe he exists. For the devotee, he's very near, right there, all the time. And he also is far away and very near at the same time. Now that's Krishna. Material, so the scientists, they don't like that, you know, these kind of descriptions. He's the oldest, but he's always young. He's the heaviest, he's the lightest, he's the biggest, he's the smallest. It doesn't make sense to them. They can't find anything like that. So they just say it's all just talk. It's not true. But devotees know. That's Krishna. Achintya. Then number 17. Although the super soul appears to be divided among all beings, he's never divided. He's situated as one. Although he is the maintainer of every living entity, he devours and develops all. Yeah. He's the source of light in all luminous objects. He's beyond the darkness of matter and is unmanifested. He is knowledge, he's the object of knowledge and the goal of knowledge. He's situated in everyone's heart. So where else do you hear that one? Huh? Famous. Huh? Which chapter? 15:15, right? Who can recite it? Huh? 15, who can say it? Everybody, right? I hope. Huh? Everybody? So, yeah, this one says he's the source of light in all luminous objects, and that one says from him comes remembrance, forgetful knowledge. But the other is the same. I am knowledge. And here he says he is knowledge. He's talking about the super soul. So therefore we know the super soul and Krishna are the same. He is knowledge. He's the object of knowledge. Vedanta Vedakrit, he's the goal of knowledge. And he's in everyone's heart. Sarvasya Chaham Vritti Sanivishto. Same. So Krishna is talking about himself in the third person. As the super soul is different, but then he says, one who knows that I and the super soul are the same will know everything. Right? So someone might get confused, but devotees just say yes. Nothing can limit Krishna. Like we were just in Mayapur, the Amgat, where Lord Chaitanya planted the mango tree and it grew immediately, and it was full of mangoes. So it says there that only devotee will believe that. That's how you can test if you're a devotee or not. Well, I'm not sure. Well, how can anyone do that? That can't happen. But Krishna, there's, how many trees there are. Just in Vrindavan now, there's not so many, but still, there's a lot of trees, right? In the universe, what to speak of in the universe, how many trees there are. Some places we go past and there's just nothing but trees. Right? You can't see the end of it. Sometimes there are fruit trees, sometimes it's just a forest. Like in Israel, in the desert, they have these date farms. And you can't see the end, just huge, thousands of trees, and all lined up, and then across the street there's another one. And every tree produces 500 kilos a year of dates. So if Krishna can do that, why can't he grow one mango tree like immediately, right? It's not a big thing for him. Just like Prabhupada said, if he can, he's holding up all the planets and all the universes. He's holding up the universes. Why can't he hold up Govardhan Hill? Foolish people don't believe it because they don't want to know that no one can be more than them. This is a stupid scientist. So anyway, the more we read Bhagavad Gita, the more we see how Krishna has everything. He says it again and again in different ways, and it's always new and fresh. And the one who studies this Bhagavad Gita, then what is that? He worships Krishna by intelligence, and his intelligence is important, right? So because intelligence is supposed to guide the mind and the senses. So to just go to the temple and bow down, that's very nice, but it may not, make someone become very, very fixed up. But worshipping Krishna by the intelligence, by reading Bhagavad Gita and discussing Bhagavad Gita, trying to share Bhagavad Gita with others, which everybody wants this knowledge. And more, because I don't know how many Bhagavad Gitas, in the newsletter they just say how many books, but a great percentage is Bhagavad Gita, and millions of books just in December. America last year, the BBT sold something like 5 times more Bhagavad Gitas than they usually sell. 5 times more. It's just picking up so much. People want it. People are looking, for Bhagavad Gita as it is. They know the Hare Krishnas have something. The yoga people in China, they're asking for Bhagavad Gita courses. I go, sometimes we have 5 hours a day, 3 days course. And they're really into it. They all buy the book and they all study. And a lot of kirtan mixed in, but still they want Bhagavad Gita. And I just met some devotees. They said, when are you coming again? There's so many people want this Bhagavad Gita course. And I met a Buddhist monk we met in China. And he was saying, and my master, he studies Bhagavad Gita. We discuss Bhagavad Gita. We chant Hare Krishna. He said the Hare Krishnas are much better than the Buddhas. He said they're more strict, about their eating, and they loved to chant Hare Krishna, and so it's spreading everywhere, and even in the USA, all kinds of people you'd never suspect. So like Mohanasini Devi, She distributes every weekend 150 Bhagavad Gita, 3 days, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Maybe more than 100, every time I see it, but 150, 160, mostly small Bhagavad in New Orleans. She said, she just tells people, this is my favorite book. And she says it is, so they can't argue. And, they say, oh yeah. And then she puts pictures of people, and they're saying, oh, I've been looking for this, or, I love to meditate, this will really help me. Like that. She has all their pictures and commentaries. And that's every weekend in New Orleans, it's a pilgrimage for nonsense. But people come, all kinds of people. So this is what we need to do. We need to learn it so we can explain it to people.
Who is it?
Mohanasini. Mohanasini. She's our god sister. Huh?
I don't think
From LA. Joined in LA. And she said at first she was very uncomfortable distributing books, and then finally she realized she's just talking to people, so it's not a big deal. And she's still going. And many, and young people going stronger than ever, distributing so many books. And in India, people buying 20,000 Bhagavad Gitas to give, prisons and stuff. People are, so this is Prabhupada's mercy. We see what's all these things that are happening. How Vrindavan is so mobbed with people all the time now. Wasn't like that years ago. It was a forest, even in the 70s, right? At least this road here, there was all trees. Now it's people, but they're all getting the mercy because of Krishna Balaram. So we're all here and be prepared, to people get books, they all want to know, they all want to learn about it also. So many people. They want to talk to devotees, they want to, so they get so much mercy if a devotee just talks to them for a few minutes. So, this is the end of this chapter. There's no need of all this detailed knowledge. But still he gives it, because it'll help us to, ultimately it's not needed. You just have to serve Krishna and chant the holy name. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Yeah. But the detailed knowledge and all these things helps us and others to get some more understanding of how great Krishna is. Rasoham apsupanteya. In Los Angeles on the beach, Prabhupada would see these winos, these men that just drink wine. They can't even eat, they only drink wine. And if they eat, they get sick. So Prabhupada said we should be like them, they've given up everything. They don't care for society, they don't care for family, they don't care for any prestige. They sleep wherever they fall down. They don't care about anything, only wine. He says, so we should be like that for Krishna, not for wine. And then he said, Rasoham sukante, I am the taste of the liquid. He said, so even if these winos, if every time they drink the wine they think this taste is Krishna, he said, they will become saintly people. It will take a long time. But that's, if they just think of Krishna, if we would think this every time we taste water, that's Krishna. And when prasadam especially, we think this is Krishna's mercy. It's serious business. So much we had to learn. This is Krishna. The holy name is Krishna. The deity is Krishna. The Supreme Personality of Godhead. And he's coming just, to let us serve him in so many intimate ways. All right, so we have some time for a question. Prashna. Someone in the back right away. There's someone in the back. I can't see her. No? You had your hand up.
My mother.
Who did? You?
Mommy?
Hare Krishna.
While everyone's thinking of their questions, I'd like to ask.
Okay.
How many you've been giving 2 classes today? Both of them
3.
Consumed a lot of time talking about the Bhagavad Gita.
This is the 3rd one.
I'm I feel very vindicated. So,
one more coming.
How many temples have you visited that have a Bhagavad Gita class? It's nice that we distribute them.
Yeah, a lot of temples don't have it anymore.
Yeah. I request,
as a regular schedule.
I request that when you go to the different temples, you say, they have this really far out Bhagavad Gita class that's been going on for 15 years in Vrindavan.
Yeah.
And everybody's addicted to coming to this class. So
yeah, it's a fact. It should be in every temple.
If some people could, sometimes some people go home to their countries and they start something.
All right, good.
But you know, because they have such a good time here.
Los Angeles has.
Enjoy ourselves. Los Angeles, I think San Diego has one a couple times a week or something like that.
Los Angeles has at least on the 5 days.
Yeah.
And I don't go to many places I go. There's not really exactly temples.
Yeah. But if they could.
In Beijing, they have every night.
Oh, that's good. They're very enthusiastic.
Yeah.
Chinese.
Yeah, they have Bhagavad Gita class every night.
So, I guess I should request you to tell everybody you see and everybody you meet.
Yeah, it's a good idea. It's nice that this one is going on. It's good for the devotees.
It's a very nice forum for satsang.
Yeah,
for the
it's the
devotees.
best.
And,
it's a very important book.
Yeah.
The more you read Bhagavad Gita, the more you can see how unlimited it is. And if you try to teach it, give a lot of classes, it really comes out.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. So we have been studying this whole chapter about all these ways that we can think of Krishna.
Huh?
I said we've been studying this whole chapter,
Yeah.
all these ways we can think of Krishna. But still, even though we're trying to be devotees, we're not achieving thinking of Krishna in these ways.
Well, you
So-
must think of Krishna sometime.
Yeah, sometimes. But I mean, our goal is to think of him always. So
Yeah.
Can you comment on how we can remove what's stopping us?
Well, you just keep trying. Like this morning, that devotee asked the same question I heard every day. 15 years, and Agni afterwards said, 15 years is nothing. That's nothing. So I said,
I'm asking, I've been doing this for 2 years.
what do you expect?
You've been in the material world since time immemorial. And just, what do you
Yeah.
what's a few years like?
Like Mukunda, that Lord Chaitanya said, I never want to see him again. And then, everybody was begging Lord Chaitanya, please, and he said, okay, tell him after 10 million lifetimes. He said, oh, great, only 10 million lifetimes and I can see him. He's not rejected me, so, if we just followed the basic program where, kirtans and classes and, service, you do think of Krishna quite a bit. Especially if you're in Vrindavan, everything, well, not as much as it used to be. We don't see the name of Krishna as much, especially in this area. I was saying, I don't think I've ever seen another city, I've definitely not seen one with more advertisements. But many, like Stockholm, has no advertising. It's against the law to put up signboards, advertising your store. One city in South America did that. They got so disgusted they just banned signs.
We still have the graffiti on the walls, Sri Radhe, Sri Krishna.
Yeah,
So-
but you find Krishna everywhere, pictures of Krishna. But, everywhere is something to read, because, Krishna is all these things. So it's good to read it again and again so it starts to click. So when we see things, like Krishna told Arjuna about the Vraha incarnation that's in the Mahabharata. He said, so whenever you see a pig, you can remember me. He said. And there's a fish, when you see a fish, you should remember Krishna. Or a shark, right? You see pictures of sharks, or you hear about sharks a lot, and if you see the news, we should think, oh yeah, among the fish, the shark is Krishna. When we see mountains, great things in the material world, and how great Krishna must be. But gradually, it comes more and more. That's why we have sadhana, and we have regulated activities where you do nothing but remember Krishna. And then gradually you can do that more and more. And if someone's fortunate enough to be, and Prabhupada said the purpose of book distribution and preaching is to remember Krishna. It's Krishna's book, it's Krishna's, you're showing people Krishna. You have to say this book is great, same as saying Krishna is great. If you're doing any kind of preaching like that, or artists, they really think of Krishna. Right? To paint, writing about Krishna, yeah. So, and if you're Brajari, you should be thinking, hopefully you're thinking, if you're making garlands, you have to think about the Lord and how it's going to look on him, right? Garland makers sometimes really meditate. The size of the deity and get it just right. So, Krishna is very kind. And if you're around here, there's kirtans all the time. That's why association with devotees is very important. And Krishna's pastimes places are everywhere. Temples are everywhere. Right? So just keep trying. And how do you get anywhere? If you're walking, you just keep walking, right? It may sometimes seem like you're never going to get anywhere. Often seems like that. But you can't quit, at a certain point. So just keep praying, and at the time of death, if you've been trying, Krishna will make sure you remember him. And this should be known, I don't know who spreads it. There's a lot of confusion that goes around, One Mataji is very sick and she can't go to the temple, and she has first initiation. And she was so worried that, somebody told her you can't go back to Godhead unless you have second initiation, but I can't get recommended unless I serve at the temple so many hours a week or something. Just crying, Somebody tells them this thing. Another Mataji came the other day and she said, she lives sometimes in Mayapur and sometimes in Bangalore. And she's worried that if she leaves her body not in Mayapur, she won't be able to go back again. I don't know where they get this information, because it's not what the book says. If you're trying to remember Krishna, making an effort in your sadhana, no matter what, Krishna will make sure you remember him, and he'll take care of you. Even an unconscious condition. But it's nice to get the extra security of being in Vrindavan or Mayapur. But don't think that just automatically, if you're in Mayapur or Vrindavan, because some people come here, then they do all nonsense. So then Bhaktivinoda said they're not in the Dham, then they're on the Dham. These sinful people that they come here just to make money, or they come here, for ill purposes. It doesn't work that way. It's like sinning on the strength of the holy name. And that doesn't have the same effect that chanting doesn't nullify all sins that you do them purposely thinking that chanting will nullify them. It doesn't nullify the sins. The previous sins, and if we give up sinful activities and dedicate life to chanting, then the previous sins are nullified. Like Jagai and Madai. there was no sin they never committed, and the Yamaraj's secretaries were overworked trying to keep track of all their sinful activities. They were complaining, but as soon as they surrendered to Lord Chaitanya and gave it up, then Lord Chaitanya said, don't ever even mention that again. Their previous life. Now they're devotees. And the sinful reactions Lord Chaitanya transferred to anyone who criticizes devotees. That's why people that criticize devotees are always never happy. They're getting all these sinful reactions of Jagai and Madai. All right? Thank you very much for coming. And I guess you come every day, that's very good. It's a lifetime thing, Bhagavad Gita. If you read a chapter a day, so much benefit is there. Even one verse, even half a verse, even one line, you can get so much benefit. But by reading a chapter every day can definitely affect your mind much more, because you'll start to remember it more and more. If you read only one verse, you'll get spiritual benefit, but you may not remember so much. If you read one chapter a day, in 2 weeks you read less than 3 weeks you read the whole Gita. So, and if you only read the Sanskrit or the English or something, it takes 10-15 minutes for a chapter. All right, I have to go somewhere else now. Hare Krishna. Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Vrindavan Dham ki jai, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai.